Hi, everyone. I have, hold on. I'm just actually going to start over again because, yeah, never mind. Hi, everyone. Welcome. And I wanted to say that, no, hold on. I'm changing my mind partway through here. One second. Um, yeah, I'm just going to record an introduction as if it's not my podcast so that we can use it just in case we need it later.
All
Okay,
right.
here we go again. Hi, everyone. I'm Becky Parker Geist. I'm the president of Bay Area Independent Publishers Association and the CEO of Pro Audio Voices. And I'm really excited to have with me today William McGinnis, author of the Adam Weldon thriller series. California native, Bill is also the author of 5 nonfiction books about whitewater rafting and sailing. And now he's writing thriller novels. Bill is well known as the river exploring founder of Whitewater Voyages, and his passions include hiking, woodworking, staring into space, audiobooks, and exploring new paths to adventure, friendship, and growth. He now lives in the San Francisco Bay Area. Bill, thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, it's my pleasure, Becky. Yeah.
So, you just published Slay the Dragon, your 4th book in the Adam Weldon thriller series. I would love it if you would just share with us a little bit more about your journey of writing. Like, let's go way back. Like, what got you started in the first place?
What an interesting question. Well, um, I just always had an interest in writing, some unexplainable desire to tell stories and things. I remember my older brother, who unfortunately is no longer with us, um, would we when we were on walks and things, he'd say, "Hey, Bill, tell a story," and I would just make up a story,
That's
and
great.
that often involved our things in our lives,
Yeah.
and places that we were hiking to that day or something.
Yeah.
And it was just fun to tap into those deep inner creative well springs. And uh, to this day, a day that I spend writing, even when I even when it doesn't flow big time,
Mhm.
occasionally it just flows and it fits and it's just magical.
Yeah.
Other times it's more painful, it's slow, it's whatever.
Mhm.
But any day that I spend some chunk of the day writing, whether it's highly productive or minimally so,
Yeah.
it's a good day.
Yeah.
It just feels like I'm in a on a path of meaning and uh, f- uh, just experiencing life in a deeper on a deeper level in a way that just feels more alive.
Oh, that's
And
great.
I guess that answers that a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. I'm like, how old were you when your brother was saying, "Hey, tell us a story"?
Oh, geez. I don't know, 7 years old, 10 years old.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so when you got around to thinking about publishing, like the first step into actually publishing a book. What was your first book?
Well, that was a how-to book about whitewater rafting called Whitewater Rafting. And I was very fortunate in that a professor of mine had published a bunch of books, and I showed him an outline of my book, and he showed it to his agent in New York. And within just a few weeks, I had a contract with the New York Times Book Company
Wow.
to publish that book, and it became kind of a Bible of the sport of rafting, and uh, launched me on a whole career of running river rafting trips. And
Cool.
during that time, I wrote more about rafting and then about sailing, and eventually sold the company. I was very lucky to have such an amazing career of all these adventures of going all over the world, running rivers, and meeting all sorts of people, and working with just amazing souls, many of whom are dear friends to this day. And then I was also just incredibly lucky to realize, hey, you know what? There's life after outfitting. I don't have to do it right up until the day I drop dead. And there's no, when you go to sell a goofy business like a rafting company, there's no, there's no set way to do it. There's,
Mm.
you just have to figure it out. And
Mm-hmm.
it's much like just running a river or something. You just figure it out. You have to be where you are, um, and just figure it out by the seat of your pants. And so
Yeah.
anyway, I was very, very lucky to figure it out, and ended up selling my company to, it was too big and unwieldy for any one buyer, but I sold it to part to my employees, part to my various competitors, split it all up and everything. It used to be the
Interesting.
largest rafting company in California.
Wow.
And anyway, so all the different buyers are doing really well with the chunks of it, and they're all happy, and a lot younger than me. And I'm launched into writing thriller novels, and it's just been a tremendous feeling. Not all pure bliss. There's a lot of agony mixed in, but
Uh-huh.
it's a kind of a delicious agony. And anyway, with Slay the Dragon, I feel so excited because it with each of my books, I feel that I'm getting better.
Yeah.
From the beginning, the very first Adam Weldon book turned out to be great and got good reviews, and a lot of acclaim. But with each successive book, I can just feel myself getting better.
Yeah.
And so Slay the Dragon is clearly, just a really, amazing achievement for me. And I'm so excited. I mentioned to you earlier that it just won the Literary Titan Gold Book Award, and
Okay.
that's the highest award. And with your indulgence, I'll share with you and our audience a few
Yes.
lines from
Definitely. Yeah. We'd love to hear
that
that, and
review.
congratulations also.
Thanks,
Yeah.
thanks.
Go for it.
So, Slay the Dragon by William McGinnis is a compelling, thrilling thriller novel with complex storylines, with action and adventure. Readers will be invested in the story from the opening pages. And it includes a few lines of kind of plot teaser here. This action-filled novel portrays the um, intensity of life in the espionage world, with political agendas, civil turmoil, and an all knowing agency watching everyone all the time. The future of the US as we know it is at risk. Adam Weldon and his friend BC attempt to unravel what is happening and stumble upon more than they bargained for. While searching for a murderer, they risk becoming the next victims. And that's kind of the original, that's what gets the whole plot started. Um, McGinnis's writing is well paced and has a nice rhythm to it. The story is quick.
Hang on one second, Bill.
Yeah.
All the movement with the paper around the microphone is making, so just if you could just start that last little bit one more time.
Okay. Uh,
That
McGinnis's writing is well paced and has a nice rhythm to it. The story is quick, but consistently keeps the reader engaged with a steady buildup of intrigue and action that all comes to a head in the riveting climax of the story. The characters really come alive due to detailed characterization and well-defined personalities. And I'll just skip down here. The author is able to create unique characters using free-flowing dialogue in a story that is constantly moving. And then the sum up is Slay the Dragon is a riveting thriller novel that will appeal to readers looking for a suspenseful spy story. This unpredictable mystery novel will engulf the reader in its complex exploration of geopolitical predicaments while providing them with a unique storyline that will keep them engaged from the first to the last page. Literary Titan Review.
Fantastic.
Thanks.
That's the kind of review every author is looking for, right?
Well,
Excellent.
it's it's very gratifying to get that acknowledgement and to be able to put award-winning author on my books and so
Yeah,
on. And so yeah, it's quite thrilling.
that's great. I want to jump back to something you said earlier. I just want to just a quick question about one thing you said, and then I have a question about your shift into fiction.
Yeah.
So you had said earlier that you'd gotten this book deal, and then you became then Whitewater Voyages, your rafting company came after that. Is that right? It sounds like your book helped actually launch your whitewater rafting career. Is that true?
Oh, absolutely. No, my first book, I would, if I have few little chunks of advice for other writers, um, which would probably include some of the viewers of this podcast.
Yeah.
One is that if you want to um, have a career in something that's a little bit unusual. If you're just going to be a doctor, you probably don't need to do this. But if you're going to do something off the wall, like start a rafting company, write a book about it first. If it's
That's good.
especially if it's some new endeavor where there doesn't, where there's a little bit of a shortage of information,
Mhm.
where you can pull together. Well, for instance, with whitewater rafting, it was a brand new sport, although there are people like Wesley Powell who had explored the Colorado and things like that, but
Mhm.
he literally didn't have any idea what he was doing.
Yeah.
and and so later, I was just a kid. I what how was I going to write I had worked as a guide for and had rafted for about 10 years, but I was still a novice in comparison to others. However, I went around and I interviewed all of the well-known authorities of whitewater rafting, the kind of the legendary outfitters and well-known people, and each one was happy to talk to me because I was writing a book about their subject. They wanted to be included in the book.
Right. Yeah.
Uh, so they talked to me at length, and I learned a great deal from them. And I learned a couple things. One was that none of them, they all knew a lot, but they didn't know what the others knew. And
Oh,
so
cool.
by talking to them, I gained a certain amount of just confidence and realized, you know what, I can I can play in this level with them. They're not on some godly level.
Yeah.
I can I'm on the same league here.
Yeah.
And but also I took chunks from what each of them knew and put them all together into the book. And so that it seemed like to them, like, holy mackerel, this guy knows a lot.
Right.
And,
Cool.
and it was a brand new sport that lent itself to just logic and
Mhm.
clear explanation.
Mhm.
And one of my longtime core philosophies is to treat my reader's time with utmost respect.
Mhm.
And I don't waste their time with a bunch of fluff. I'm not like, oh, I'm a writer. All my words are so special. I'm just going to write, and they're going to just swoon at the fact that I put words on paper. No,
Right.
I want them like with nonfiction. It's very simple. You want value. You want to make the points, the convey information clearly
Right.
and in an entertaining way,
Right.
as simply as possible. And I had trained as a professional guide and been exposed to the state of the art of rafting, as well as all those interviews. And so I knew enough to know that most of the explanations were unwieldy. They didn't,
Mhm.
and a lot of the information was incorrect. that I'd
Ah,
been taught. And so I could just go, logically look at the subject and explain it in a very clear way, and figure out brand new ways that were simple and clear.
right,
With
right.
and I got a good artist to draw a bunch of line drawings and that sort of thing. So I explained the basic techniques of whitewater rafting, and it was the first time it had been done.
Yeah.
Uh, it did launch me into it was great for my company, because this was the company run by the guy who'd written the book,
Right.
and
Yeah.
so it definitely infused me with a sense of confidence that I I didn't have without that. But I still, even with the book, I didn't have it, but I could fake it better with the book. And so
And then
uh,
to sort of jump to where like you're talking about that nonfiction. So then what was that shift into fiction? What was that like for you and what led to that?
oh well, one point is that, so it was great being published by the New York Times Book Company. They got me in all the libraries. It was
Hmm.
on national TV and things like that. And so it established me in a really great way. But the thing is that well, it went back then you could get a royalty that would go to 15% after a certain number of books. And that book went into so many printings, it did go to 15%, but
Hmm.
it's still just 15%.
Yeah.
And so when I published my next book, which was the Guide's Guide, and then followed by the Guide's Guide Augmented, which was how to run river trips. And really, I just wrote that book because I needed it to explain to my 250 river guides how to be good river guides.
Right.
I
Yeah.
didn't want to try to explain it to each one individually. I spent a lot of time with each with them in guide schools, trying to teach them how to be the best possible guides.
Hmm.
But it took the book was incredibly useful in that way. But it was, why should I um, give it to a publisher when I was known in my field, and I could publish it myself and keep 100% of the income from
Right.
it. And so that led to just being indie published for years, kind of before indie publishing was cool.
Hmm.
But then when it came time to write fiction, I didn't give it a thought. I just went straight into continued on in the path of indie publishing. And it is different with fiction. It's harder to get reviews if you're independently published. And there's a little more resistance from bookstores, that sort of thing. And so I'm grateful for this opportunity to be on a podcast like this,
Yeah.
and so on. So it's slower going, but the book is there's all kinds of ways, excuse me, now to spread the word as an indie writer, and to get the word out and that sort of thing. And so all of that's happening. Still, my highest love is just the writing. And
Hmm.
on many days, I think, shall I work on some marketing or shall I just write? And I just write. And
Okay.
so I'm
Let's
still,
yeah.
yeah. Go
Let's
ahead.
just take a short pause
Okay.
while I get my bread out of the oven. But this will also give us a place to pause in the interview, in the podcast itself, and we'll be able to put in a little segment from your audio, one of your audiobooks. So think about which one you'd like us to insert there while I grab the bread. Be right back.
Okay.
Okay, and I'm back. All
All
right.
right.
Did you have any
Well,
thoughts about which you'd like to?
congratulations on your bread.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Timing. Ah. Um, yeah. So, um, let's go ahead. So I'm going to ask you next as we come back after our short break. Let's see. Let's go on to undercurrent of uplifting messages. Okay. All
Oh,
right. Here we go. And
Um, well,
well, actually, let me go ahead and ask you that question since okay. And we're back. So, Bill, one of the things that I particularly love about your writing is this undercurrent of uplifting messages that you have. Could you tell us a little bit about your own undercurrent of intention? What messages do you hope that your readers will pick up on?
well, thanks so much for that question. I, uh, in a way, it goes back to that whole lifetime of running rivers and so on. Uh, there's a certain kind of orientation that I learned and I would share with my guides, and now that I share through my writing of a kind of a positive energy of one aspect of it can be summarized in the three questions.
Oh, hang on a second. Could you just start with aspects of which there was a lot of noise right underneath that?
I got to stop moving put anything around.
That would help.
um, so where do
Tell us about the aspects of the writing that you were starting in to talk about. Oh, aspects of I think of your experience with river running that you bring into your writing.
yeah. So uh, my writing and this positive dimension we're talking about is influenced by my whole life and including river running. And um, for example, one of the things I learned, and this isn't original to me, but I embrace this fully, having learned it from others, is a kind of a way to bring out um, peak performance in myself and others, and to be positively oriented, and to basically find this positive uplift. And for example, there's three questions: what is the situation? Where are we going? How do we get there?
Mm-hmm.
What is the situation? Where are we going? How do we get there? It doesn't include what's wrong with me, what's wrong with you, why are you such a jerk? It's all positive. It's oriented toward making the most out of any situation, making
Right.
the most out of life.
Right.
And so it's philosophies like that that underlie my fiction. And so my main character Adam, who's a kind of everyman person who, uh, but he's a little bigger than life. He never stops. He gets knocked down, but he never stays down.
Yeah.
And he has very sensitive feet, but he doesn't ever stop running over sharp rocks. He just keeps
Uh-huh.
going. But it's that kind of fundamental can-do attitude toward life.
Mm-hmm.
And so wherever he is, he goes through he gets kidnapped in at one point, and in Slay the Dragon, and he wakes up in a totally different part of the world, and he naturally goes, this is very bad news, because he's been kidnapped by very, very bad people,
Yeah.
and who are totally happy just extracting the information from him in the most gruesome way possible, and then ending his life.
Mm-hmm.
But and so as he wakes up and realizes this, it's like, oh, I mean, he goes through a period of what would you say? Just taking that in and feeling sad,
Mhm.
to put it mildly.
Yeah.
But it, uh, he, as quickly as he can, he realizes, you know what, I'm not dead yet, and I'm gonna take stock of myself and figure out what's going on, and just and try to watch for some opportunity, some way to survive, and even if that's just for the next few minutes,
Yeah.
you know, if he can just survive for a few minutes, and then see his way. And anyway, he's very resourceful,
Yeah.
and that very resourcefulness is an example for the reader as well. There's always ways to figure things out, and so I also try to make all of his solutions believable and accessible. It's
Mhm.
not like
Mhm.
he's a Superman, or it's not
Right.
like he does impossible things that are just magical. There's no magic, you know.
Right. Right.
He does these things that, oh, that's really clever how he did that. You know, I got to
Mhm.
remember that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so all of that is, I think, fun for the reader,
Yeah.
and uplifting. You know, these are uplifting stories because he's overcoming significant hurdles, and he's he's on the side of good. He's trying to help people and so on. Like in Slay the Dragon, it deals with um, civil turmoil in America, the breakdown of law and order, widespread rioting in the streets. It deals with the Chinese Communist Party's quest for world domination. It deals with the plight of the ordinary Chinese person, including the Falun Gong membership. It deals with the 40 years of unrestricted warfare that the Chinese Communist Party has waged against the West and against America in particular. Um, and it comes to grips with these things, and it also finds ways to it deals, for instance, with the dissidents within China who
Mhm.
are fighting for democracy,
Mhm.
and who are just amazing brave souls who revere, of all things, our Declaration of Independence, our Constitution. They can quote it. Some of these people, this is all based on research, some travel inside China that I did
Mhm.
myself, but also a lot of research about Chinese dissidents who waved, you know, they're marching in Hong Kong with American flags,
Mm.
while here we have dissidents burning American flags.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
uh, it makes anyway, it's just quite a you know, quite a world we live in, and
Yeah.
I try to portray all of that, and through this there is there's an appreciation um, for the challenges America faces, and um, for the fight for freedom,
Mhm.
in the fight to become aware of what the real risks are to America, and to what we have as our true legacy of freedom. And uh, um, so the novel comes to grips with these things, and finishes on a very optimistic note on two levels. And the core thing, though, is uh, America, the human spirit all over the world, is indomitable if it's awake.
Mm.
We
Yeah.
awaken to the real
Mhm.
risks and to the real possibilities and the real beauty that that we have. And
Mhm.
so that those are the, you know, some of the themes that run through this book,
Yeah.
as well as it being, on one level, you don't even have to care about any of that. You can just like a good story that just keeps you on the edge of your seat, you know.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And now, especially for our audiobook author audience, I want to just ask one more question here as we wrap up soon. But you've been now through the audiobook production process 3.5 times, right? We have Whitewater, a thriller,
Yeah.
Gold Bay, The
Right.
Cyclops Conspiracy,
Yeah,
and now we're in production with Slay the Dragon.
we are.
Now, if you were guiding other authors down the river of audiobook production, what might you want to share with them?
Well, I think one, find a find a good outfit that's good to work with, such as yours, um,
Thank you.
and uh, be aware that audiobooks open up a whole new, wider market for your books because so many people now do their reading while commuting, while swimming, while walking, while biking, and audiobooks lend themselves to that. So it's a technology that's just not, you just shouldn't miss out on the huge world that it opens up.
Yeah, great.
Um, Another little thought is to writers. Um, a couple of thoughts. Let me see if I can say them succinctly. Um, uh, One thought is that there's a real challenge in writing, and when the writing isn't flowing. One of the little things I try to remember is to break it down into smaller steps.
Mm,
if
mhm,
if 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 I'm sitting there and the pages stays blank or the screen stays blank, uh, what it means is that I'm trying to take too big a step.
mhm,
I just break it down into a smaller step. Like, okay, I'm trying to write unconsciously. I'm trying to write the perfect sentence. Well, don't try to write the perfect sentence. Try to write a halfway decent sentence,
uh-huh,
or
yeah,
any sentence, or a fragment, or a word. Try to just bring my attention to what I'm
mhm,
to, reread what I've written and bring my attention to what might come next.
right,
Um, uh, get my seat, get my behind into the seat in front of my computer. All those little steps.
yeah,
Then if the writing still doesn't flow, then here's point number two, which is uh, a little more um, uh, hard to define, but it has to do with being with yourself and just admitting what is for you. And if one of the huge things in our world and for me is getting distracted
mhm,
and focusing and or just being bothered by something so that it keeps me from focusing. And if I can just close my eyes and just accept what are the thoughts that I'm having? What is this, what's keeping me from being present or putting things aside so that I can write? And there's a kind of phrase that you could use, radical, just saying a radical yes to whatever there is inside you.
mm,
Just say yes to it. Okay, I'm being really bugged by my relationship. I'm being really bugged by the world situation. I'm being really upset by this war that's going on. And so you just admit those things and then temporarily ask permission to set them aside.
mm,
And so, okay, I'm in an inner turmoil over such and such. Okay, that's part of me, that's there, and I'll attend to you in good time, but right now give me a break, let me focus on this. And so
yeah,
you basically you kind of like acknowledge that thing in you because it's there. It is in a sense a real part of you, and it wants some attention. It probably on some level wants to save me or help me. And so if I just say I will attend to you,
mhm,
but give me some space.
yeah,
And we as humans in our own awareness, there is magic.
yeah,
And if we can say um, uh, yes, you're part of me, and that's there, and that's bugging me. And then we can say, and this is the real magic, we can say, so what? So what? Move aside for a little while. I want to write. And
That's
you
great.
can do it. You can create this space within you to focus and to access your inner creative wellspring. And that's what that's where my writing comes from. And it's that process is so enlivening and strengthening and joyous. It is and agonizing too. It's all part of this creative experience that that I want to, as long as I'm alive, I want to keep drinking from that cup.
All right. Could you say that last sentence one more time, if you best you can, as long as I'm alive?
As long as I'm alive, I want to keep drinking from that cup.
Great. That's good because you were moving things around in there. Okay.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Okay. Wonderful. So, uh, Bill, I want to thank you so much for being with me today. This has really been delightful. And we're going to have a moment where we're going to get to listen to a clip from the Cyclops conspiracy.
Oh,
And then, would you let our listeners know where they can learn more about you and your books?
well, my books are all available on Amazon. Also, they're available through Ingram Spark. And a really great place just to go to one source to check out all my writings. Go to williammcginnis.com, williammcginnis.com.
Great. Great. Again, Bill, thank you. It's been a
Well,
delight.
well, thank you. The pleasure has been mine.
Okay. I'm going to